because it is very pretty and it's quite a nice place with Wi-Fi. Good morning. It is Friday, so end of the week, if that's how you roll. Last night we had only a couple of mil here at the homestead. However, just to the south of the homestead, down at Jump Up, we copped a fair bit of rain. So southern side got a decent drop, but then it also did a very good drop up towards the north near Bullock, Tunal and those sort of spots. This morning I'm just doing a quick little run to replace a entire Wi-Fi unit. It's the original one that I set up for my first little demo. It's slowly had little bits added to it as we go, but I'm going to liberate its enclosure and put one of these new ones in that should be drop and go with a little bit of configuration, and I'm going to rerun some of the lines because it's got dodgy cables or not very durable cables on it. So it'll get a little bit of a birthday, and I will set that up nicer, and I'll be able to talk you through that box a little bit clearer, and then I will see what else the day is going to bring me. So yeah, let's cruise on in, have a pretty casual day, get some stuff knocked over. This morning I've already done the service on the postie bike, so that's all clean again and it's been serviced. So I've got a few bits I need to replace, so a new headlight would be nice, and I've got to throw a new chain on because the chain's a little bit, well, she's done a little bit of work. Yeah, it's hot and humid, more humid than hot. Oh, let's get into it. Windidda Spring. These yards here are on the outside of the enclosure that we've got here to protect the spring itself, and that also allows us to manage the water. It's helping to prevent any overgrazing that would be occurring in there and has traditionally occurred there, and it is helping to regenerate the grass and also protect the area itself, which is pretty incredible. And we might go have a little bit of a look through there in a moment. But we put this fence in here. Now these drill rod posts are not rammed in. Every one of these 300 and something posts we drilled with the air ram. So with the drill rig itself, we went along, drilled these in, and these are the same 3 meter rods, or 3.4 meter rods. So there is quite a bit of post under the ground here. Now this top steel cable is very, very sturdy. It is quite good at keeping the camels out, and when we still had horses here, it helped keep them out. Then the ring lock itself is just good for keeping the moo cows out, and it slows the kangaroos down a little bit. We could improve it by putting some vermin wire down the bottom, but in general it does a very, very good job of protecting that area there, which we feel is important. So yeah, this is the one I need to do the work to. It originally started out as a shuttle with a solar panel on the top, a lead acid battery, and a Solar Plus or Solar Point, one of those old Ubiquity things, but it had a tendency to overcharge, and occasionally it burnt. It did burn. Right, so I'm going to be taking down this little plastic box, putting the big steel one in, replacing these lines here because that's just a normal indoor cable, and I will swap out that light beam for a nano station. Yeah, nano station. Right, so let's get to disconnecting and reconnecting everything here. A lot of legacy stuff in here, so we're going to be tidying it up, but most of this is just literally going to be pulled out and the entire unit will replace it. So these nano switches were really good because they were just 24 volts in, and then you had 324-volt slots out of them. So we could run just 1 lead up, then we'd have our access point for the station, then we'd have local Wi-Fi access, and then we could have a camera. But everything's moving over to 48-volt cameras, although the access, these radios, are still working on 24 volts, which is mildly frustrating, but again, we can get those little converters if we wanted to. Oh no. Spring washer. No. Now that's all bolted in, we've got an extra nut here. I'll put that in my kit. I'm going to retain the battery. The battery was fine. It was a good one. So we'll put that back in and we'll start getting some volts going into the unit. We're good to mount it either this way or longwise into it, but the length of my cable here is just a little bit on the short side. Now, a little bit of a concern that I have here is my positive is there, and this chassis will be a earth. So I want to make sure that this positive won't contact there. Going a little bit longer on these leads would have been good, but we're doing a little bit of a retrofit in terms of the design. But it also means that I can, because all the cables will run down the back, slip it over here and have it safe. So during configuration, it should be in the strike zone, and then when we're done, we can shuffle it across. This one, I've already got the relay installed over here, and it's mounted up and it's out of the way, so it's much neater than the one over at Woggle. Alright, then after that, what we've got to do is put our little switch back in. So this is the flex switch, so it's 48 volts in and it'll do 448s out. This is manageable through the Unify software, so that means that I can just open it up and I can remotely restart any of these. I can also see what its power usage is. Big affirmative on the switch. Now we're plugged in there. Have a look at how much he's punching in. Alright, now make sure that it knows what the battery is. 14.4, 13.8, 16.2, all these good things. Now we'll go to our load output, use defined 2. So we'll just go to 1. 2, we'll set our low voltage to 12.2 and 14.8. Good. Right, so that's the Bluetooth side programmed up. So now we're on to running a cable or two upstairs for our comms in and out, and our camera. I'm going to put the camera up just straight below that. So upstairs is done. They're patched in, so there's the access point and the camera. We are now at the stage of routing it or routing it and getting it into the box and into their right voltages, and then programming the station. I'm going to start with my 24 volt because everything else is a lot easier from there. So time to grab my phone out and log into the unit and hook it up to the network. So I'm just going to launch UISP. I'm going to go to standalone mode. Right, so I've launched UISP and I've got my nano station there. It'll connect to it and use a default password for us to go into the configuration. Now, I don't like using the wizard. The wizard kind of annoys me. I usually end up with it being a bit of a bastard in terms of it not taking the right configuration. It'll set its own default one. So in here, I know that the network I'm looking for is called UBNT because that was my initial first one, so I've never changed it. Now I'm not showing you the password, but I put in the password for the network, and now we're going to just let it run in. Right, so while that's doing that configuration change, I'm going to put the lid on this. Gives me a little bit more shade to work in. All right. I found that these nano station units are actually really broad in the target that they can get. So it could be used in a situation where you've got a tilt up, so a post in the ground that you roll it up and it's just pointing roughly in the right direction. And I've had them working out at about 11 kilometers and they work. You know, it's for this type of network, it just needs to be good enough. And good enough is a lot better than nothing. Righty. Good. And it's got a good connection between the two units here, between those little PoE injectors. Now we're established and we're on, so that's the sort of speed that we're looking at here. And it'll show us our distance, which is only 4.7 kilometers. So we are rocking and rolling. This one's for all the tradies out there. And it's one of the things that I really like about having a Starlink on my vehicles, especially when I'm doing things with this Wi-Fi, where if I've got a local problem like this, where it's a little access point isn't booting or logging on, I can just jump in and use my Starlink that's on the car. So I can, well, the main thing why I'm saying it's for all the tradies is to see how well the Starlink itself will work with a ladder kind of in the way. And it's just kind of dropped out then. Not ideal. I wanted to jump in and jump onto that camera remotely. Now I did have it up just before, but she's just dropped out. Come on. So jumping into protect. So we're going up to Starlink, satellite, back to Starlink, down, and then into our access point. And with a ladder in the way, we might not be getting the best connection. And I find when I switch between the local and the remote, so effectively I'm remote, I need to make sure that I reboot it. Right, so it's not a bad looking connection there. Well, image. Little bit on the piss. But I'm gonna say it's good enough because when I climb back up that, I want to put an access point that works. So, sweet as, job done. Windidda Spring. This area has improved so much since we began managing and protecting it. So, while we're down doing those little upgrades, go for a quiet walk through here and have a little bit of a look around, because it is very pretty and it's quite a nice place with Wi-Fi. So the spring itself is sort of these two areas here, but you can see coming out of the rock the water just trickling through, keeping this, well, that's the level that it's coming out at. But this will hold water all year round, which is just absolutely incredible, and it's fresh. Over there you can see the remnants of an old trough that was fed out of the spring itself. In this spring, and yeah, we will swim in it, you also have the added surprise of occasionally turtles will pop up. You can see there's a lot of insect life here. This grass here that you can see, and there's quite a bit of it all through here now. This is kangaroo grass, and it's a highly palatable variety of grass, and it gets hammered by kangaroos and by livestock. We've noticed the biggest comeback in it across the station since we got rid of the horses. The horses, they were just devastating on it. People often ask us if we've revegetated, put seed out or anything. No, we just got rid of the things that were eating it, giving the country a chance to heal itself. And you could see that there was no new water running in from the rainfalls coming in and filling that area there up. But you can see that we've got water trickling out of here, making its way down the creek line itself. And it's not an unimpressive flow. That is quite a lot of water that it is pumping in or coming out of the ground. and moving downstream. So yeah, it's pretty nice here. You may have noticed the amount of bird life down here, but bird, water means life. You also might have seen a couple of trees or posts in here that have got wire on them, and you can see over here you've got 3 posts. Got another one there. Now, in the dry times, this doesn't go for the nearly 1.6 kilometres that it is at the moment. And in the old days, they used to have a fence here, and they had it fenced off just right in nice and close to it, so that they could control the animals and the cattle, and they could trap the cattle on the water here as they came in for a drink, so they didn't have to work as hard mustering. An impressive amount of work, because this is not easy to dig in. So as I was saying, it's quite a lot of activity here, but over there is a nesting site for these little fellas. You can see their little mud nests in the shade there. They're on the north bank, so they get all day shade. Got a little duck just hiding in the reeds over there as well. And there's the big group. In fact, looking over there a little bit more with the little duck hidden in there, I reckon that's a nesting site. Gives them a lot of protection and a lot of shade. Only thing is, we've got a predator just over here in this tree. We've got a big nest, looks like an eagle's nest. So down in that little spot there was pretty good, a nice little hide. As soon as I pop up, they didn't like the idea. Oh, who do we have here? Now the lizards like this area because they've got access to feed, and that'll be why those little mud birds have got a little bit of protection, because they're up off it, so they have a bit more of a mission to get get the food. These guys have got plenty of feed in here, and they're not shy of taking a couple of little finches or a duck or anything they can get. And it's nice and cool. We'll have a nest somewhere up here. And there's our big bird nest. There's a magpie over there. Hope you've enjoyed that little bit of nature that I got the opportunity to share with you. It's time for me to head home for lunch and keep being productive.